Hi guys, in today's video I want to talk about placement of the topic sentence. First of all, what is a topic sentence? Topic sentence is the sentence within a paragraph that explains the topic. It's usually one statement, it's the point of that particular paragraph. Now, not all paragraphs have to have a topic sentence. In longer pieces of writing, the topic may be introduced and then require several paragraphs to develop it. But what we're doing in most cases, the length of the essays we're doing, we do want to be thinking about a topic sentence in each paragraph. And there are different places that we can put a topic sentence. So today I want to talk about the placement of the topic sentence, not necessarily how to build one. I'm assuming that at this level you should be able to come up with a decent topic sentence for a paragraph, but where to put it, and to know that it doesn't just have to go at the beginning. So I want to talk about 4 different options for placing a topic sentence in a paragraph. The beginning, obviously, is probably the most common way of doing it and the simplest. Number 2, we can do it in the middle of the paragraph. We can put a topic sentence at the end of a paragraph. And we have this 4th option of a 1-3 combo, meaning the topic sentence shows up at the beginning and at the end of a paragraph. I'm going to give you examples of each of these. It does require, I think, for me to read through these. I don't want to just throw them up on the screen and have you see where the topic is. I'd like you to see how these paragraphs develop, why it makes sense in each of these paragraphs to put the topic sentence where the author did. Let's start with a paragraph on a wedding cake. Constructing a wedding cake is a complicated process. There's our topic. Before any baking takes place, the size of the cake and the decorative design to be used must be determined. Then the layers are baked. On a large cake, the bottom layers may be as much as 16 inches in diameter. Because of their size, these layers must be baked one at a time, a process which may actually take an entire day. Once the layers are cooled, same size pairs are matched and frosted. Since large wedding cakes are surprisingly heavy, half-inch dowel rods must be measured, cut, and carefully driven into the bottom layers. These wooden posts provide hidden support for the weighty upper layers. When all the layers are set in place, flowers, garlands, and leaves of frosting are added. These delicate touches individualize the wedding cake and transform it from merely a cake into a culinary work of art. Now, the topic sentence says that it's a complicated process. It does make sense in this paragraph to have it at the beginning because the paragraph itself is complicated and it carefully walks you through. What you want to avoid having your reader do is to ask him or herself halfway through, why is the author doing this? Why am I getting all of these specific steps on how to put a cake together? Well, the first sentence would have taken care of that problem. Anticipating what the reader is going to experience as he or she reads your writing, that can help determine where the topic sentence is going to go. If you want to build them up to a conclusion, then you don't want to have the topic sentence at the very beginning. But in this case, it made sense to say that it's a complicated process and then explain it. Now, this author does something at the end of this paragraph that I'm going to talk about at the end of this slideshow, so just keep it in mind as we go over option 4 in just a minute. Let's go to 2 before then. We can put a topic sentence in the middle of a paragraph also. When a camera flash is used in a low light environment, the subject's eyes may appear red in the finished photograph. What is known as red eye is the result of light from the flash reflecting off the pupils of the eyes. Here's the topic. The phenomenon of red eye can be lessened by using the red eye reduction feature found on many SLR cameras. This feature activates a lamp which shines a small light directly into the subject's eyes. When this happens, the diameter of the pupil is reduced, thus tightening the opening in the iris. Since a smaller pupil means a smaller host for the reflection, the chances of red eye occurring are greatly reduced. Okay, now think about why it would make sense in this paragraph to have that topic sentence plugged right into the middle. The phenomenon of red eye can be lessened by using the red eye reduction feature found on many SLR cameras. Well, in this case, in the topic sentence, you've got 2 ideas. You have the phenomenon of red eye, and then you have this red eye reduction feature. So the author has built us up to, by defining the phenomenon of red eye, he's built us up to the topic, and then moves from the idea of what it is, a definition of red eye, to how it can be eliminated. this feature that reduces it. So it makes sense to put it in the middle. Now, this could have gone at the beginning, but I think it flows better. Logically, it fits better with what this paragraph is doing. So there's one in the... Oops, too far. We have the 1-3 combo paragraph, beginning and end. This is long. Same idea, just like a wedding cake is a long process. Throwing a clay pot is a long and tedious and complicated process. So you have a long paragraph. Look what this first author did. We don't have a repetition of the topic sentence at the end, but we do have an idea that closes the paragraph, that gives the paragraph itself its own sort of organic quality. These delicate touches individualize a wedding cake and transform it from merely a cake into a culinary work of art. We're sort of building up to this idea that this thing is a work of art, and the work of arts do not happen simply or quickly. Sorry, it's my phone. But we don't, this author chose not to repeat the topic sentence. I think he or she could have done that, but instead gives us this idea that we've arrived at a culinary work of art. It's a good way to close a paragraph, and we'll look at different methods and the importance of having a sense of coherence by closing each paragraph. Okay, well, as I mentioned before, I am going to ask you to do some of these. Actually, I'm going to ask you to do all of them. So your task, your first assignment, is to write 4 paragraphs, 100 words minimum, 1 each for the 4 methods we've discussed. Let me talk a second about paragraphs. Different teachers will have different ideas of what constitutes a paragraph, and all teachers want to have some kind of a minimum. I'm generally a word minimum guy. Our essays that we'll write have word minimums to them. In college, you're likely to have word minimum projects and research papers and things to write. So for paragraphs, you may hear somebody say 3 sentences or 5 sentences. The number of sentences really doesn't matter. The word count does not matter. But I'm looking for a level of effort and thought that will require, something more than 40 or 50 words. So in a way it's kind of arbitrary, but in a way I'm doing this intentionally. So for our purposes, unless I tell you otherwise, if I ask you to do a paragraph, I'm going to ask you to do 100 words for these paragraphs. These are writing exercises. That does not at all mean that your paragraphs in an essay need to be at least 100 words, or in any other kind of writing. We don't want to be thinking about that. We need to be thinking about what the paragraph is doing. But in terms of these isolated exercises, when I ask you to do a paragraph, it's going to be a 100-word minimum. Now, the ones that we just looked at, all 4 of those were more than 100 words. I think the camera, the red-eye paragraph was 109 words, and the longest paragraph we have was 240. So to give you some idea of scale, these aren't going to be, you're not writing essays, you're just writing 100-word paragraphs. So you're going to do 1 of each of the methods. So that's 4 paragraphs. That's 400 words minimum. Oh, I didn't talk about this. We haven't talked about lit sources yet. This is a good time for an aside. You might want to write this down. One of your objectives needs to be, before you start this assignment, is to pick a single work of literature. A book, a film, a play. I think any of those would work. It needs to be of such complexity that you can draw on it and go into depth on it if I ask you to. You need to be familiar enough with it that you can do this without having to open up the book. So let's say you've got a favorite film, and it's got some complexity in terms of things like characters, plot, setting, style, themes, and motifs, and you can discuss these and deal with them. Then that would be a good candidate for your literary source. And what I want you to do is have 1 literary source that you can draw from when I ask you to. So for these 4 paragraphs, I'd like you to draw them all out of this single source. Now it's open-ended beyond that, so you can use a descriptive paragraph, or a narrative paragraph, or a process paragraph. We've seen, I think, all of those just now in those 4 examples I gave you, so long as you've got a topic sentence in these different places. highlight the topic sentence in each paragraph so that I know you know where it's going. Okay? So that's your assignment, your first assignment for the week. 4 paragraphs, each of them drawn from a single literary source. And I would choose, I mean, if I were doing this, I would choose something that had a lot of different things to pull from. Something like The Lord of the Rings. Yeah, Star Wars, sure. There's a lot of characters, a lot of things happen. If you know a play, if you were in HPA and you've got a real good sense of a particular play, of all of these things, these literary elements, that would be fine. I don't need to be familiar with it. Just I need you drawing from the same source each time. It gives us a sense of consistency and unity in our writing, and it's actually easier for you because you can automatically go to this place. You don't have to sort of look anywhere and everywhere to find ideas for writing. Okay, so 4 paragraphs, 100 words each. They're drawn from your lit source. You've highlighted the topic sentence in each paragraph. Okay, what are you going to do with it then? As with all writing assignments, this one needs to be emailed to me. Email it as an attachment to bradbeals@gmail.com. Now, if you've got a kind of program, a writing program, word processing program what I'm finding is there are a number of programs that I can't open, then I may have to have you send that as an actual email, like in the body of an email. If that's the case, usually it's not a problem. For longer pieces, it can be a little bit tedious because I've got to go in and cut and paste. So we can talk about that as that happens, but get it sent to me. If I can't open it, I will let you know, and you can send it back as just part of an email. If you have other assignments to do at the same time, like you will this week, because you will have something else to do on Friday, you'll need to turn them in as separate attachments. You can turn them in the same email. That's not a problem. Just make sure that the attachments are separate so that I can open them and file them without having to go in and cut them up and separate them myself. Okay, I believe that's it. The due date is Friday, and on any due date, anytime I say a particular day I need it, it's always midnight of that day. Midnight of that day. So midnight Friday is when I need these 4 paragraphs. Okay, I think that is it. That's our first assignment for the year. Enjoy it. Have fun with it. I look forward to reading them. Thanks, guys. Oh, I wasn't done. If you have questions, anytime you've got questions, you can email me. I check my email hourly, probably, especially once the school year gets rolling. I've got it right there at my desktop. So shoot me questions. I like them. I have no problem answering them. That's what I'm here for. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.